Hello folks, we writers talk a lot about writing habits, writing every day or writing regularly, but let's have a think about when to stop writing. Now to be clear, I don't mean stopping altogether and jacking it in, I'm talking about how do you know when you're done for the day. First drafts I could write all day and collapse in a heap, but I've discovered that my daily limit is about 2 hours. After that, my poor little brain turns to soft fudge and it starts to leak out of my ears. Either that or I've got an ear infection. Anyway, because my brain goes soft, the writing suffers. It's just not as good as those first 2 hours. For edits, I find that it's even more important to set myself limitations. Now, I was really in the zone this morning, knocked out a little over 1,000 words, which might not sound like much, but I'm editing, and this was a whole new chunk that I was grafting onto the beginning of a chapter, and it was my allotted task for that morning's writing session. I'd left myself a note, fix this by doing X, Y, and Z, and I did it, and I was happy with it, and I was so buoyed up that I just wanted to keep writing, but I stopped. Why? Well, the truth is I didn't have much of a plan beyond my allotted task. I could have carried on, but I would have been blundering about with no idea what to do. And as I said, if this was a first draft, I might have sat down and made some notes, or maybe carried on writing blind, and that's okay with a first draft, but when editing, I like to stick to the plan. I've been through the book, I've made tons of notes, done my edit triage, figured out what needs fixing, and I'm tackling those tasks one at a time. Have a look at some of my earlier videos and how I prepare for an edit in more detail. So for the next few days, I'm focused on one particular character. After that, I'll switch to the next problem on the list, because when editing, the temptation is to try and fix everything at once, and then you end up making a right old mess, and there's a chance you can do more harm than good. So when editing, make a plan and stick to it, one fix at a time. The other thing I do at the end of an edit session is make a few notes for tomorrow's session. So here, just 50 words. I've told myself I need to change the POV in the next chapter and reminded myself of the changes I've made and what consequences they will have. Better to do that when it's fresh rather than tomorrow morning, where I might sit at my desk at 7:30 in the morning, don't forget, and wonder just what the blimmin' heck I'm supposed to do. On weeks like this, it's also important to set limitations because I'm working on 2 projects simultaneously. Not ideal, but it happens. One is the next Woodville Books edit. The other is the second draft of a screenplay. They are sufficiently different for me to separate them in my mind, but also having allotted times and tasks really helps, as does having a bit of time between them. I'm lucky enough to work from home, so it's those between times that I get bits of housework done, which also gets me off my bottom. Very important for a writer. So that's just what works for me. Have you discovered your writing session limits yet? Pop something in the comments below. Of course, you might be like Chet Cunningham. I was reading about this legend the other day, from the publication of his first book in 1968 to his passing in 2017 at the age of 88. Chester Cunningham had something like 350 books published: westerns, adventure novels, military thrillers. He also co-wrote the Penetrator books under the pseudonym Lionel Derrick. This is what sent me down this rabbit hole. I saw the covers on the Pulp Librarian Twitter feed and they are extraordinary. Chet comes from that pulp tradition where a writer was expected to knock out a thrilling adventure in weeks, if not days. I think at one point he was doing 1 western per month. And why the hell not? And here's the thing, Chet never stopped. Here's a quote from the FAQs on his website when asked about writer's block. He says, "I came from a newspaper background. When the editor assigns you a story, you write it. No ifs, buts, or I don't feel like writing today. I usually write from 8 to 10 hours a day when I'm on a roll on a book. Researching is another thing." And then he was asked about writer's block. Do you ever get writer's block? He said, "I never use the term. I don't believe it exists. Ever heard of a carpenter not going to work because he has carpenter's block? If a writer can't write, it's because he doesn't really want to. He isn't ready to get it on paper, or he's just plain lazy. There's no such thing as writer's block, only writer dumb. Well, Chet, we may disagree on that, but I salute you. Me, I'm going to have a cup of tea. Until next time, folks, happy writing.